Welcome to another edition of the 49er Goldcast.
San Francisco, are you ready? Welcome to another edition of the 49er Goldcast. This is the Bay Area fan perspective. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
and our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Boom! Boom! Week 6 is in the books, and we finally have another W back in the win column.
Ladies and gentlemen, you saw this with your own eyes.
Nice to have. Raymond, you know what happens on the weeks when we win. Take it away.
That's right. We get to relive in the glory that is victory. A revisiting of the teams that met in Super Bowl 47, albeit different cast members this time. Flacco versus Kaepernick. Which arm would rise victorious? First quarter, San Francisco, second possession of the game. 1st and 10, Cap from center. Fakes the handoff to Hyde. Dumps it over to Bruce Miller, who takes it upfield. Stiff arms Mosley back about 4 yards. Still on his feet. A 28-yard catch and run that would set up Dawson's first field goal of the day and the first score of the day from 53 yards out. It would go through like butter. Niners up by 3 early. San Francisco's next possession following a Ravens 3-and-out. 3rd and 1 on the San Francisco 14. Cap from center again. Quick play action. 5-step drop. Plants, throws to a wide open Bruce Miller again, who makes the catch at the 45, and there he goes. Steps out of bounds at a Baltimore 25-yard line. A catch and run for 52 yards. That play would again set up the Niners' second field goal score. Dawson was nails all day, this time from 31 yards out. San Francisco ahead by 6. On to the next quarter. 49ers first possession of the second. First series, 2nd and 6. Cap from center. Fakes to Hyde. All kinds of time. Cap heaves it down the field to an open Torrey Smith. Caught in stride. Sharice Rice picked up from San Francisco 4 days earlier. Scorched on the play. 76-yard touchdown grab. Point after is good. Lead now up by 13. Ensuing possession for Baltimore. Flacco out of the gun, drops back, fires down the middle, and it's picked off by Wilhoit, who jumped the route. How Flacco thought he could thread it between Wilhoit and Bowman is beyond me. Either way, it's Niners ball. San Francisco would capitalize via Dawson's leg for a 26-yard field goal, 16-3 through the first half. On to the third quarter. Ravens would get the second half kickoff, 4th series in their opening drive. 1st and 10 on the San Francisco 41. Flacco drops back. Ahmad Brooks in his face. Flacco throws deep to his left. No one is there but Kenneth Acker, and he makes the pick, cuts back upfield, breaks a couple tackles, crosses midfield, and finally brought down, but not before returning the ball for 45 yards. Niners would fail to put it in the end zone. However, 42 yards would not be far enough for Phil Dawson, who nails his 4th field goal of the day, 19-6. San Francisco in control. Ravens would score after that. It was nice and cute, but didn't really do anything to the Niners' momentum all day. On to the final quarter. Niners first possession in the 4th. First series, 2nd and 21 on the San Francisco 24. Cap from shotgun takes a snap. Pressure collapses. Cap scrambles left. Looks downfield, throws deep left, and Bolden makes a terrific catch over the shoulder. Brought down immediately. 52 yards on the catch. 3 plays later, 3rd and 6. Blitz coming. Picked up. Cap looks left. Nothing there. Drops back to his right. Staley blocks Cap's blind side. He plants, throws to the end zone. Quentin Patton's all alone. He makes the catch. Touchdown. 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 The 2-point conversion would fail, but the lead is increased to 25-13. Ravens would score one more time, but who cares? The Niners get the win. They would have loved to have this win. We all would have loved to have this win in 2012, but alas, it is tonight. So
Awesome.
Kaepernick once again has a really strong game. This has kind of been the unanimous talk after this game from all other pundits, including us tonight, which we will get into. But let me just say, Cap for the past 2 games has thrown for 602 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He has been absolutely stellar, playing like the old Cap, albeit a lot more better with his poise in the pocket and being able to make the deep throws. Guys, what do we make of this game?
Well, I thought Cap was great. I thought he showed a lot of poise, showed a lot of confidence. There were a couple of of questionable passes that slip through the hands of the Baltimore Ravens. But I mean that happens in a lot of games. That's not just that happens to a lot of different quarterbacks. I thought in general he made the plays necessary to win, and that was important. I thought it was a big bounce back psychologically where we were weeks 3 and 4. After week 4, I was nervous. I thought if this is the way it's going to go for Cap, then we're toast, and Cap could be done by the end of the season. But seeing him bounce back from that psychological funk that he's in was good. It was important. The question is, can he maintain it? Can he keep it going forward? I don't know. Do you think he can, Ray?
He's done it for 4 out of the 6 games. The only problem is he's 2-2 in that effort, and that's not necessarily all on him. The defense clearly has a lot of holes and allows a ton of yardage, especially through the air. So that needs to get cleaned up, because Cap is not the type of quarterback, at least not yet, that can get you back into a game the way a Brady and an Aaron Rodgers can by shooting you out through the air. They just haven't polished the passing game to that point yet. The hope is to get to that kind of point because you can see the potential. We can see the big plays to Torrey Smith and what can happen when we utilize him and utilize his speed. And that was actually the second pass to Bruce Miller where he caught it and ran for 52 yards. Had he thrown left, Torrey Smith had his man beat too. It's just that Bruce Miller had a wide open seam up there. I think that was his first read, but Torrey Smith was definitely wide open on the left-hand side. And with that speed, that could have resulted in another touchdown. But I think there's potential. It's just a matter of can they keep it together? Can they pull it together? Cap has played better more than not this year. Defense just needs to pick up the slack.
Absolutely. Old man Davis, your thoughts?
I may have said this last week. It was a game either team could have won. But Team Old Man Davis went with the 49ers, and he made it right in Vegas over 2-point spread with that 25-20 win. Right? I thought both offenses were one-dimensional, both teams relying on that pass game. Flacco obviously being the better performing quarterback of the two. We did see number 7 actually
He threw 2 picks.
I'll get to why I think Joey Flacco is the better quarterback of the game. But let me just say, number 7 did actually make an effort to get the ball out of his hand rather than run. And that shows tremendous growth over the last 2 games that we've seen Kaepernick versus the first part of the season. Now, the 49ers weren't able to get any traction with that run offense because Carlos Hyde was hampering with that skinny ankle of his that he wasn't able to perform all 4 quarters. We couldn't depend on Mike Davis, and Jared Hayne was fumbling one punt after the other, and I don't think he could have ran as a running back. So I think the 49ers need to reevaluate. If Hyde isn't going to be healthy for the remainder of the season, they're going to have to look into seeing what other running backs are available to use in the back. Now, the whole day, number 7 was going to be forced to throw the ball, and if there was any chance of winning, he had to get the ball into those receivers' hands, and he did enough of that for them to win the game. Interestingly, both teams struggled offensively, and I say that because this could have been a better numbers game for both teams. The Ravens O-line held the defense, protecting Flacco, with 0 sacks, whereas that Ravens D-line were able to put pressure on number 7, putting him to the ground with 3 sacks. 3 sacks, almost like what Russell Wilson can get with his O-line.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that's the most important part of that stat. It did not rattle Cap. And in the past, we have seen that kind of pressure get to him. He stayed calm, he stayed poised, he stayed confident, and he continued to push forward with the team, and that was huge. That's the intangible. Sure, on paper, you're right. He was sacked 3 times for 14 yards. But the intangible is that he did not quit. He continued to fight. He continued to lead his team. You've been talking all year about leadership, Old Man Davis. Well, there you go. There it is.
That's not leadership. That's just an athlete that's playing his position the way he needs and should have been.
Oh, wow.
And he signed that contract.
Oh, wow. Can you believe this, right? You hear that?
It's not. So he's.
Look, I want you to understand.
The offense struggled. They struggled to get touchdowns, but I wouldn't say that they struggled overall. I mean, they didn't have a 3 and out until the 3rd quarter. That means that they are sustaining more drives longer than the opposing team. I mean, look at the Ravens. The Ravens had how many 3 and outs? How many punts in the first half? They had 3 punts, a pick, and then a field goal.
Look, if you guys all just want to spend all night and all day just bashing on the Baltimore Ravens, that's fine. We can do that. We can turn
No
this
one's
into
bashing the Baltimore Ravens. You're
cast.
not giving enough credit to the 49ers. You're not giving credit where credit is due.
I want to evaluate number 7's performance. I want him to hear this Goldcast so that he can walk home alone and think about his performance, his actions, what goes on in that brain of his, and what he says to himself when he gets up in the morning and says, am I the right person to lead this team? Deep ball accuracy, late releases, vacant pocket presence, poor patience and poise. Everyone's talking about this, except no one's listening. The Hall of Fame legends, the experts, the coaches, the sideline chatter, the media heads, even the little league players talking about what he's not doing right. Number 7 just needs to stop thinking and throw that ball.
At the end of the day, you have to work to get better.
And he did a little bit of that on Sunday.
He's done that for actually most of the season. He had 2 major hiccup games. He cannot pass the ball to himself. He played pretty good in the first game. He fought really hard in the second game, and then games 5 and 6, he's been strong. 3 and 4 were really bad, and I agree. They were really, really bad. That has not been contested at any point on the 49er Goldcast. But now you're taking this whole other level where now it's like you don't even want to recognize when he's doing well. Right. Now you just want to spray haterade all over it. No. Silver and black haterade.
There was haterade being poured over my head when we won the Super Bowl, okay? That's the only thing I knew. And that's because nobody wanted to congratulate Silver and Black for what we did, what we accomplished here in the league that is known as the NFL, okay? I'm not going to talk about what my accomplishments are and the contributions I've made to this league. What we're going to talk about is number 7. We're going to talk about the red and gold. We're going to talk about
what would that have to do with the conversation anyways?
Because I bring expertise. I bring leadership. I bring ownership. I bring all these elements that help you to succeed in what you guys do best. And what is that? What do you two do so well?
Everything.
Exactly.
We're 2/3 of the show.
Well, no one says. Where are we going with this conversation?
Where are we going with this?
Nothing to do with anything anymore. This is completely lost track. We've completely lost track of the conversation.
I wanted to talk about number 7, and you guys are bashing me with haterade.
Want to spray haterade all over it. Silver and black.
Oh my goodness. Listen, here's one cause for concern. Okay, Elman Davis. I'm going to give this to Ray, and then you can answer since you've had the conch for quite a while.
Throw the ball. That's your job. But throw it with intention. Throw it with purpose. Throw it without having
to think saying he didn't do that?
Without having to think about.
I don't want to throw an interception.
He was 16 for 27 for 340 yards, average of 12.6 yards a pass, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. What more do you want?
53 passes to reach that mark, and he only topped it by 3 yards.
It still doesn't excuse the fact that during his press conferences, he said more than once that he's not looking to throw interceptions and put his team in a bad position. That's all. No, nobody is. Joey Flacco, Peyton Manning.
You just talked yourself in that corner.
Nobody, no winning quarterback is thinking, I don't want to throw interceptions. What they're thinking about, Ray, is I'm throwing a touchdown. All right? They're not thinking.
Yeah, but that wasn't the question that the press had asked, the media asked him in that moment.
And not only that, it's him acknowledging that if he isn't concentrating every second out there, he has the ability to become a very easy quarterback to pick off. So being focused on his flaw and trying to avoid it and put his team in a winning position, which he has done for the last 2 weeks. He has done that for the last 2 weeks. Even though they didn't win last week, he has put his team in position to win 2 weeks in a row. Isn't that the quarterback you want? If he was throwing picks out there, you'd be crucifying him. Now he says he doesn't want to throw picks. He's thrown 4 TDs for 0 interceptions, and now you're crucifying him again. He can't win. He can't win with old man David.
This was an ugly play game for both teams.
How was it ugly? How was it ugly for the 49ers?
Because you know deep down inside, still win. No matter how ugly it is.
There's a lot of ugly wins in the NFL. A W is a W. This isn't baseball or basketball where you have, 80 plus games and, get them next time. Every loss and win counts in this league. And by hook or crook, as long as you get the W, that's all that matters. We've seen this time and time again, season after season, team after team. A W is a W. And sometimes you got to get them through the defense, like with the Denver Broncos right now. And sometimes you got to get them, through some wild quarterback play from Colin Kaepernick or Russell Wilson last year, going over 300 yards, rushing three games in a row. By hook or crook, man, this is the NFL. A W is a W. That's how you got to get.
Hey, maybe this is just where I'm old school, I'm an older generation, and I just feel the need to call people out, call the players out for their actions. The guy has just helped the team win 2 games, okay?
Oh, maybe that's it.
You're not even leaving any room for a position player like number 7 to accept some tough love, to get some constructive criticism from here, old man Davis, and you guys are too soft on him. Letting him
Oh, man.
letting
No
him be
way.
satisfied for his feat of what he's been up to do at this point of the season. I disagree. I say you still got some more to prove.
Well, yeah, no one's disagreeing with that. But you got to give that guy some moment in the sun at some point.
Jimmy said during the press
What?
conference after the game on
What?
Sunday, he said, you know what, I'm going to celebrate 30 minutes, and it's done. We're moving on. And as far as you talking about number 7 and what he was able to do in this game against Baltimore, yeah, let's give it 5 minutes, and we're moving on because there's no guarantees any given Sunday. It could be great, as you guys claim. Who knows?
Oh, man.
All right.
So, Raymond, okay, here's a question for you. Here's an honest, analytical question, which I was going to get to. I had to deal with Old Man Davis's hour-long tirade. Now, the last 2 teams that we have played, there are some interesting stats that raise concern. So, New York Giants, they're ranked 31st in pass defense, dead last in sacks. The Ravens are ranked 27th against the pass, 5th in sacks, which is much, much better. So how do you feel about where Cap is right now? He has played against some teams that are pretty weak against the pass. Does that in any way throw shade on what he's been able to do? Is this a building block for next week? Or what are your thoughts on those stats in conjunction with how Cap has played the last 2 weeks?
It's a building block. A good quarterback should be beating the weak teams. It shouldn't be the reverse. In fact, I'd be more concerned if it was the reverse. If we were playing mediocre teams and Cap was playing the way he did against Arizona and Pittsburgh, then there would be extreme alarm. It'd be like, whoa, we need to consider some kind of dramatic change. I don't know if that means benching or if that means something else, but something needs to happen. In this case, it's much more positive because he's beating the teams he should beat, and he just needs the other half of the team, including himself, to step it up like they have in the past against the better teams. And that comes with just learning the playbook and polishing the playbook, refining it, and then building a rapport with your offensive weapons, and on the defensive side, learning the complexities of it, and then gaining the experience to become a better player, because now we're building from scratch on that end to a degree.
Well, I think that's important too. And Old Man Davis, you have to acknowledge that. The psychology of an athlete is more important than just about anything. Your ability to believe in yourself. I've said this many times. I'm going to bring it up again. We have a tale of 2 caps. We have the first year and a half, and then we have the second year and a half. First year and a half, he takes over Alex Smith after the injury, takes him to the Super Bowl, loses, comes back the next season, no sleeves against Green Bay. We lose to Seattle in the NFC Championship. That's the first cap. The second cap. We have the second cap that begins, and his journey starts last year. Greg Roman's offense really struggles as they contain him in the pocket and they try to force him to be something that he's not. He buckles under the pressure, the Harbaugh situation, blah, blah, blah. We all know the team goes 8-8. And this year he's with a newer system, a new offensive scheme. They're trying to allow him to do what he does best. And we slowly see him coming out of his shell again. Perspective and psychology is everything. It will propel an athlete more than talent. And Kaepernick, if Kaepernick can begin to believe in himself, and this win and the way he played the week before against the Giants, I think are major stepping stones in getting him to believe in himself. Would you agree with that?
I would say you have a point, but I couldn't invest in agreeing with you. I think looking at the rest of the schedule, he has a lot of challenges up ahead of him. And the only way to see some consistency and to include what you're summarizing, as well as what Ray's added, is that he's going to have to show up.
At the end of the day, you have to work to get better.
Every game. Put up the numbers. Throw the ball to Smith, to Bolden, to McDonald, to Bush if he even shows up.
Who's McDonald?
Ronald McDonald.
Okay, so let's hit on another concern that Old Man Davis briefly brought up, aside from throwing passes to Ronald McDonald. That's also a big concern for me. I don't want to see that happen. Carlos Hyde. Should we be a little worried? That no-hit drop, that kind of freaked me out. Cause for concern?
I think he needs to be more patient. with the running game. He said that the one thing he learned from Frank Gore was how to be patient and wait for your play to develop. In this case, wait for your blocks and then explode through the hole. I'm seeing Hyde getting a little over eager and kind of blasting through the holes early. And that's part of his style, but at the same time, if you run as violently as he does, you're going to be susceptible to more injury, as we've already seen here. And he can't be running like a Walter Payton or a Roger Craig. Walter Payton's obviously an exception. He lasted 10 years, but Roger Craig ran in a similar fashion and did not last as long. He lasted for less than 10 years. In fact, it was like 7 or 8 years or something like that. The point is, he needs to take better care of his approach towards each play that he's going to get the handoff, because if he continues to do that, it's just we're not in a position to do that. And I don't know why Mike Davis is not getting more touches. I don't know why we're trying to thrust Jared Hayne into this role. I know he has exceptional athletic skills, but so does Mike Davis. And guess what? Mike Davis has been doing this longer. And Jared Hayne has shown susceptibility to the fumble. And the last thing you want in a game from your rookie is a turnover. So in this case, Hyde just needs to take better care of himself. And I don't think it's something that he needs to improve on his physical conditioning. It's just how he approaches the game. And if he said that he learned patience from Gore, then I think it's in his best interest to utilize some of that a little bit better than he has.
We're gonna move into some other subjects. Mainly an old subject from way back in June has come back to haunt us: Johnny Festival football. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey, Old Man Davis, what are you doing here?
Navigating, looking for a podcast to listen to.
Really? What kind of podcast are you looking for?
Sports, football, pigskin, American.
Well, how about a 49er podcast?
There's a 49er podcast?
Not just any 49er podcast, the best 49er podcast. When we need a new, fresh perspective on the 49ers, we turn to the 49ers Goldcast. They are the only voice that truly represents the Bay Area fan perspective. Hosted by Rudy Solis III, his brother Raymond Solis I, and that silly old curmudgeon, Old Man Davis. The 49er Goldcast is considered by most to be the greatest fan podcast in the history of fan podcasts. You can download the latest episode of the 49er Goldcast on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Simply type in the 49ers Goldcast as one word. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/49ers Goldcast. All right, gentlemen. So in June of this year, I believe it was our very first episode back to really kick off the summer, which you can also find on all of the places we just mentioned. We did an episode that all talked about when we thought Johnny Manziel would fall back off the wagon. He was in the middle of rehab, and none of us were buying it. So, Old Man Davis, let our listeners know, for those who don't remember, what week did you place your bet that Johnny Manziel would fall off the wagon?
I had him preseason week 4.
Boom. Raymond, your bet.
Regular season week 1.
Boom. My bet was week 9, Thursday, November 5th, Cleveland at Cincinnati. And I have to say, guys, it looks like it's coming down to my bet right now.
He's heading that way with his latest one.
Man, he was in a car in a fight with his girlfriend. This is the report I read on ESPN. And someone noticed them fighting and called the police, gave a police report. Apparently, she threw his wallet out the window, and then he took her phone, and she tried to get out of the car, and he had to restrain her, and there were marks on her from being restrained. And she said that he pushed her head up against the window, but that she said she didn't feel like she was in danger. She did appear intoxicated. She refused to go to the police. He, on the other hand, appeared sober. And he also said, but he did admit to having drank earlier that day. Johnny Festival. What music festival was he going to? Coachella's not till like a year away. Where was he going? Old Man Davis, your thoughts?
Treasure Island Music Festival.
That was this past Sunday.
He was at the Treasure Island Music Festival, driving all the way back.
Johnny Fingers, Johnny Manziel, football, Johnny, whatever he calls himself these days, or Texas Press wants to label him. He's a hand-me-down football quarterback. At best, college pro.
At best, college. Man, this guy won a Heisman. God, shows you how little faith you should put into a Heisman.
All right.
So I'm gonna give you couple of breakdowns. So from my original prediction, Week 8, Sunday, November 1st, Arizona at Cleveland. After getting sacked 29 times by the St. Louis Rams, Johnny's benched on Tuesday before the game. Now, see, I was actually expecting him to play a little bit more. That's where I'm wrong. So on October 30th, this is my prediction, approximately 9 days from now, Manziel hits the Voodoo Music Festival. Notable acts include Girl Talk, Florence and the Machine, Modest Mouse, and Alesso. He smokes a little herb and is convinced he should have just one drink. Maybe he has a vodka soda because, he's not really drinking right now. Week 9, Thursday, November 5th, Cleveland at Cincinnati. Manziel is told he has lost his starting job to a Billy Goat. See, he pretty much already lost it to a Billy Goat way back at the beginning of the season. He's ripped apart on every social media platform. The day after the Bengals spank the Browns, Manziel snaps. He runs off to the Fun Fest the next day in Austin, Texas. Notable acts include Wu-Tang, Chromeo, Neon Indian. He does it all. Ecstasy, herb, drink, Clorox, Tide. He takes selfies in front of his favorite band, snapping the money sign every time, and that's when he's fully gone.
I'm gonna have me some fun. I'm gonna have me some fun. I'm gonna have me some fun.
So we still have a couple more music festivals to turn him. We've got the Voodoo Festival, November 1st, and then we have the Fun Festival in Austin, Texas, week 9. I just don't think he can handle the pressure. There's no way. I feel like you just have to take Manziel and treat him like Old Yeller. You just got to tie him up to a tree and just pull that big old shotgun out and just call it a day.
And then what do you do with Colleen?
Oh, the girlfriend. You just tell her that's the way it had to be, and you put her back in that car and you tell her to go home. Call your mother. She's worried sick about you. Johnny Manziel is the teen wolf of the NFL, and not the TV show on MTV, but the original one with Michael J. Fox.
Give me a keg of beer.
That's Johnny Football after every game. He's their teen wolf.
Michael J. Fox as Johnny Manziel.
Is Johnny Manziel.
Give me a keg of beer.
That was him before he got in the car.
Whoa.
I feel like on the way to every practice, you could find Johnny Manziel in his wolf form, van surfing all the way to he's on the top of the van with his arms out, wearing his Letterman jacket on the way to practice for the Cleveland Browns. Oh, man. Ooh. All right.
Look, I'm done with talking about Johnny. Let's move on.
Yeah, me too. I'm over
Not
it.
winning me games.
I'm starting to get drunk just talking about it. I don't like it. It's bad. It's a weird feeling. Okay, so, gentlemen, moving on to our final segment of the evening. It's all about that money,
That green.
that celery,
Luke's Saber,
Oregano.
basil,
Captain Crunch,
Parsley.
gold coins,
charbroiled chicken,
Shamrock.
barbecue,
mowed grass,
Weed.
green stuff,
Bo Jackson.
Leprechaun pan.
Irish people,
Relish.
doubloons.
Boom.
So, gentlemen, if I understand this correctly, both of you right now are currently tied at 4-2 on our prop bets. Am I right?
That is correct.
All right. So, Raymond, before we get into the prop bets, break down this week's game for our listeners. Very close.
This week's game is Thursday night football. We are on a short week. It'll be at 8:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That means 5:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Levi's Stadium. Location shots courtesy of San Francisco because there's nothing worthwhile looking at other than the game in Santa Clara. You can find it live on CBS and NFL Network.
Boom. Gentlemen, looking into the prop bets for this Thursday's game, the Seattle Seahawks are 6-point favorites over the San Francisco 49ers. The question, Raymond, today is, do you take that bet?
I would not take that bet because I think this is going to be a hard-fought game. It's going to be a close game. And the Seahawks technically have the edge here because they are the more intact team, albeit all the issues they're going through this season. It's obviously not come together like it has in the past. However, the big thing that stands out for me is San Francisco's inability to stop the pass. Conversely, the Seahawks cannot protect Russell Wilson as he is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL still. So the question is, will 49ers lack of a pass rush take advantage of this, or will they let Russell Wilson get out of the pocket, make plays with his legs? Because if he does and picks up on the blitz packages that Eric Mangini dials up, then he's going to be able to kill us in the big throws. And that has been the ongoing theme all year long, even against the Ravens. Steve Smith did play very well against us, and that's because he got by some of our more exploitable cornerbacks, especially in the slot position. And Jimmy Ward is a matchup nightmare for anybody. I don't care how good you are. So they need to take care of the underneath throws, and I'm not sure. They're one of the worst in the league in that regard. I just don't know if the 49ers have built momentum and they have the potential on paper to beat Seattle. I just don't know if they're going to get it done. However, I don't think it's going to be by that margin. I would take the under. I think it's going to be a close one. However, even though my faithful inside me wants the 49ers to win, I think Seattle's definitely going to pull this one, but only by a field goal.
3 points. Ooh.
Please don't bash me for that because I want them to win. In fact, I would love the Niners to prove me wrong.
There we go. And again, we're just talking about prop betting at that point. Old Man Davis, now the question for you. Seattle Seahawks, 6-point favorites. Do you take the over or under on that bet?
I bleed red and gold as much as I wear silver and black. I probably am the most diehard fan on this cast. I have to say, number 7, be prepared. Seattle Seahawks defense can show up any given week, and they've been doing it almost every week. This defense is 5th best in the league in pass defense against opposing offenses. A coordinator like Jeep Christ needs to have a game plan ready for Colin Kaepernick to complete. Wilson has the ability to extend the play, move the chains first downs, but he isn't a guarantee of putting points on the boards. We need to see number 7 make sure that touchdowns count and they're not just points that the defense is scoring.
All right, there you go. So Raymond,
I ain't done yet. Seattle over 6 points plus more.
So Old Man Davis takes the over for Seattle, over 6. Raymond's taking the under. Raymond's saying at around 3. Well, gentlemen, I hope you're both wrong, and I hope the San Francisco 49ers win. It's a really tough one, and my heart is bleeding SF red and gold right now, and let's hope for a 49er victory. Raymond, where can they find us?
You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/49ersGoldcast. You can follow us on Twitter at 49ersGoldcast. You can also subscribe to us via YouTube and iTunes. Simply look up the same name, 49ers Goldcast, and subscribe so you can stay in touch on top of all the latest and greatest of our podcasts as they release live to the world.
And remember, we're also brand new on Stitcher. You can find every Goldcast from this season over on Stitcher as well. Raymond, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Ray Solis, as well as Instagram at Ray Solis1. I might follow you back. I might not. Depends how nice or not nice you are to me.
You son of a bitch.
Hey, well, that's pretty honest. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Rudy Solis third, RUDYSOLIS, number 3, RD, Rudy Solis third. Old Man Davis, where can they find you?
Typically, you can find me in Oakland, California, West Oakland, East Oakland, North Oakland. But this week, you can find me at Qualcomm Stadium, San Diego, where we'll be running over those Chargers, taking in them for a win, and solidifying our position in the AFC West.
So concludes, gentlemen, another edition of the 49er Goldcast. We are the Bay Area fan perspective. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
And our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Bam! We'll see you next week. Same Goldcast time, same Goldcast channel. Moving on. The freaks come out at night. The freaks come out. The freaks come out. The freaks come out. The freaks come out at night.